Thanks for sticking around, everyone. So what I'm going to talk to you today is about work that we're doing at Wellcome around open research. And we've called it open research rather than open science because we have a team of, we fund social sciences and humanities and history work as well. So we want to be inclusive to all of the areas of research that we fund, and also try and have an impact across those disciplines as well, not just focusing on science. So I'm going to talk to you today about some of the work that we've done at Wellcome, are doing currently, and then some of the future things that we've been thinking about, which hopefully ties in with some of the conversations that we had around the focus group sessions as well, which was quite nice to see. So for those of you that don't know, we're a global research charity. We were funded by an endowment from Henry Wellcome, and we invest approximately, getting on for £700 million a year in research. And we are committed, and have been for a long time, an advocate of open access and open data sharing. So these are just some of the brief things that we've done in the past. We're involved in the Bermuda Principles in 1996, which is around the immediate sharing of human genome data with the Genome Sequencing Project. We launched an open access policy in 2005, and this has been developed in subsequent years. We launched a repository, we've had data sharing policies, and we've also started exploring publishing. So eLife has already been talked about. And we have a new platform that we launched this year for Wellcome funded researchers. So our open access policy, it's been around for 2005, updated in 2012, requires all researchers to make their primary research outputs open access. And that doesn't matter whether it's in a paper or a monograph or a book chapter. We want it to be freely available for others to read. You need to use our repository, and where we pay an article processing charge or a book charge, we want that material to be licensed for research, reuse rather, and we provide funding to pay for that. So if you're Wellcome funded, speak to the Office for Scholarly Information because we can help you cover those charges. And we also monitor what our researchers are doing. So these are our current compliance rates. We work 6 months back because we have a 6-month embargo period, and we're at the 80% mark for compliance with all our research outputs that we can follow. And we're really pleased with this, obviously. You know, the final 20%, but we'll see if we can get there. In terms of data management, policy was published in 2007 and updated in 2010, and hopefully will be updated in the near future to broaden this beyond data and to start thinking about including different outputs, for example code as well. This policy is not policed in the same way that the open access policy is, and I think that's in part around we not necessarily feeling that there was the infrastructure or the skills to actually that it just wouldn't be fair to enforce a policy in that nature at the time that it was first produced. We want to encourage this, and we didn't feel it was the right time to start putting a stick behind it, I would say. Just briefly mention, I said we launched UK PMC in 2005, that became Europe PMC in 2012, and this is a life sciences literature repository. It contains the content of PubMed and PubMed Central, but it's also got additional content, including patents, NHS clinical guidelines, and it also does additional things. So it's links to public databases, so you can link out to GenBank, you can get your protein information, There is also other external links, so you can link into altmetrics, Publons, I'm not actually sure Publons is on there. I need to check that one. But there's a lot of different areas where you can get alternative information and links on that article. You can do text and mining of the content in Europe PMC. It also contains funding information, so all of the Wellcome Trust grants are uploaded there. And it's funded by 27 research charities from across Europe. And we think this is a really good model for providing sustainable infrastructure funding. So one of the issues around data repositories and international tools generally is how are they funded beyond the life of an initial grant. And we think this is one potential model for that, so that's why I wanted to raise that. So why does Wellcome invest so much money in open access or open research? We think it accelerates discovery and it increases the health benefit that comes from it. Maximizes our return. You know, we are trying to get the greatest value out of our research, and on that note of value, openness can help reduce waste. So you might not finish off that piece of research, but someone else could potentially build that into their own project going forward. And it's also about increasing who can use that. We've just talked about that that academic gated environment. So it's about making outputs available more widely. But it's not just us that thinks that. I mean, we've heard a lot today heard mentioned some of the different organisations that are also really pro taking an open approach to research and science, and a lot of funders are really thinking about this area and what funders can do in terms of putting that expectation on researchers, but also providing the support tools and facilities that are necessary to enable researchers to do that and to support that behaviour as well into the reward mechanism. So what are we going to do next? So how can we set open as the default? And I'm part of a team at Wellcome called the Open Research Team. And we are currently in what we call the development phase, and we're trying to put together an application portfolio that would see Wellcome take open research forward as a priority area, so a strategic focus for the organisation. And with the aim being that Wellcome would take leadership in promoting the sharing of research outputs. And because haven't yet been approved, some of what I'm going to talk about going forwards hasn't happened yet, may not happen. So if you could sort of share and tweet with a sort of slight caveat for some of it, that would be appreciated. Basically, our vision is to switch, as I said earlier, to switch the default to open. So where there are improvements in human health because research outputs are managed, shared, used in ways that unleash their full potential, not necessarily by the person who first produced them. And one of the things that we've been doing as part of this development phase is doing some research around not only our own funders but the wider community. There's been several reports that we've commissioned. They're all available on our Figshare account, welcome.figshare.com, and also from the Wellcome website. But I'm just going to talk about a researcher survey that we've commissioned. So we asked them to look into different areas of openness, publications, data, code, and we also looked at this information based on research disciplines and career levels. Now, I'm not going to go into all of the details, but in terms of papers, 33% of our researchers publish all their papers open access. I think particularly for this audience, early career researchers are less likely to make use of our funds. They are there for you as researchers, whether you are junior researchers or senior researchers, so please make use of them. In terms of data reuse, 25% of researchers have never reused existing data. I think that's quite a good sign that 75% are using existing data. That might just be their own existing data. I'm not sure we quite delved down into that depth. And the main barrier to data sharing were fears of misuse, fear of loss of future publications, things that we've already mentioned today. But actually, none of those who had shared data had any bad experience from it. So
just quickly, any idea why the early career researchers are the least likely to use those funds?
I don't know if it was, we didn't go into,
I was just wondering if we counted PhD students as early career.
Yeah, we would have
researchers, 'cause
done.
A lot of them have their own grants that support research. They might be paying out of their own research fund rather than
Potentially, yeah.
Generally, junior researchers are not allowed to write grants. They're not allowed to have their own money. So I think there is probably some work to be done to tell them that yes, you can apply for small fund, or there is some funding that is available to you.
Yeah.
It's smaller one, maybe traveling funding, but that's probably a message that is not.
I mean, it could
clear.
just be that these papers are going through under the PI's name.
Yeah.
So the spend is attributed to the group leader rather than the individual researcher. I'm not aware of whether we answered that question, but I can have a look at that for you.
I think career-wise, it's really great for young researchers to be able to say, I got this grant, and it doesn't matter whether it's a lot of money or not, but it's the first way to
Start being
showcase
open.
independence
Yeah.
by getting money.
And then the last one, code. 33% of researchers have reused code in research. And I get, maybe it's because we're funding predominantly life sciences. I'd sort of expected that to be higher, but these are kind of our baseline figures that we're going to be working from as part of our when we sort of come to measure success in the work that we're doing. So from all of the surveys that we commissioned, we sort of identified the following challenges that we think need to be overcome. So there's a cultural challenge around incentivizing the sharing of research outputs and recognizing that work. Infrastructure, a need for technical, so standards, interoperability between different technologies that are used to generate the data, professional skills training, and then ethics, particularly around clinical data and social science research. How do you protect research participants? There's a lot of variation between disciplines. We know that genetics is very strong around data sharing. How can we move other disciplines forward to that level? And this is also about working with others. As a team, we really want to create wider change rather than not just for Wellcome funded researchers. So how might we do this? So this is going to start off with things that we've done, and it is going to get increasingly hand-wavy towards the end as we sort of approach the things that we would like to do. So on the publishing level, we would like to diversify publishing options for researchers and opportunities. And we've heard about eLife earlier on today. One of the new things that we've launched is Wellcome Open Research. And this is an online platform where Wellcome funded researchers can publish any research outputs in sort of without word limits or strict formats, and they can share them when they think they're worth sharing. It launched last week. We already have papers on there if people want to take a look, and some of them have already been peer reviewed, because it's a post-publication peer review model, and that enables the articles to get out there quickly because you can publish them immediately, peer review comes afterwards. Inclusive, so Wix open to positive results, negative results, methods, data sets, case studies. You can, if you think it's worth sharing, you can share it through this platform. It's open, it meets our open and data sharing requirements. We're looking for reproducibility, so we're asking for data sharing alongside articles and the transparency around the open peer review. It's also easy because we automatically pay your APCs. So this is the model. You submit your article, it's published, and then there's open peer review that is cyclical until you get 2 ticks of approved, at which point you can then, you're essentially deemed suitable to go to PubMed because you're peer reviewed at that point. There's versioning on the articles, the peer reviews are published, and you can have your response as an author, your responses to the peer reviews are also published as well. Other options. So we're also really interested in preprints. And Erin mentioned this morning, that they're increasingly being used within disciplines outside of physics and mathematics. BioArchive is probably the biggest one in our area. And we are responding to this increasing use at the Trust. We have amended our grant applications and our end of grant reporting. This is going to be rolled out in the first quarter of next year, as and when new rounds become open for applications, because we think preprints represent an opportunity for researchers, particularly early career researchers who might have got stuck in that publication pipeline, to have something to showcase the work that they've done. And we also see preprints as a way of diversifying outputs. So you can share a preprint of something like a negative result that a traditional journal may not want to publish. And we've also been involved with ASAP Bio, which is a community movement on preprints, around whether there is a need for a central service for preprints, so kind of like an aggregator like PubMed Central, and what that service might be if it happened. So there's kind of a really big movement around preprints, I think, going on at the moment, and we are exploring that. This is kind of my transition slide. Cambridge Open Research Pilot. So this is a 2-year project with the Office for Scholarly of Information here, and as at Wellcome. And it's to try and increase our understanding of what's needed for researchers to share and get credit for different types of research outputs. It's open to any Cambridge research group that's funded by the Wellcome Trust, who is willing to commit their time and themselves to experience open research. There's quite a lot, it's quite a long URL, but I'm sure someone from the lovely Office of Scholarly Information can tweet it for me. So that those that are interested can find out a bit more. And it's hoped that through this, I think we want to find out, because this pilot will involve meetings with us as well as with the Office for Scholarly Information, what it's like to share different research outputs. Am I already out of time? Oh God, that was a massive fail. This is good because it gets hand wavy now. So, data reuse. We are involved in clinicalstudyDataRequest.com. This is where pharmaceutical companies share their clinical trials data, and we're exploring whether we could put academic clinical trials data through that portal as well to increase clinical trials reuse. The Open Science Prize, Erin mentioned this morning, but I wanted to give it another plug because public voting opens on the 1st of December, which is where you can vote for which of these tools you think is most helpful towards research, and you can help them win further development funds to expand their pilot study. And what else are we going to do? We're looking at working with research communities around infrastructure, particularly areas of public health, clinical trials, and neuroimaging, so the main core areas of the Wellcome Trust. And then we also want to do a lot of work around incentivising and supporting open practices, so looking at how we can diversify how researchers are evaluated, and yeah, lots more as well. So sorry for that. Any questions?